Welcome to Sisters in Crime Murder Monday. My name is Jacq. I'm a bibliophile, writer, occasional broadcaster, award-winning podcaster, and member of Sisters in Crime Australia, where we've been celebrating women's crime writing since 1991. My guest for this month's Murder Monday is the amazing award-winning UK author, Elly Griffiths. Hey, Elly.
Hi.
Elly is on record as saying she did all the right things to become a writer. She read English at King's College in London, worked in a library, then a magazine, then as a publicity assistant at HarperCollins, and then as editorial director for children's books, all of which completely put her off writing. It wasn't until she was on mat leave in 98 that she wrote what became her first published novel, The Italian Quarter, about Italy and families and identity. Then, when she was on holidays in Norfolk with her husband Andy, he mentioned that the prehistoric people had believed that the local marshland was sacred. As he said these words, the entire plot of The Crossing Places appeared fully formed in Elly's head, along with the wonderful Dr. Ruth Galloway. Her agent told her that a new novel was crime and she needed a crime name, so Domenica De Rosa became Elly Griffiths. Since then, Elly hasn't wasted any time. She has 15 novels in her Ruth Galloway series, 7 in the Brighton Mysteries, 4 in the Girl Called Justice series for kids, and 2 standalones with another one out in January. And if that wasn't enough, Elly has also won the 2020 Edgar Allan Poe Award for the Best Novel for Stranger Diaries. And in 2021, the Postscript Murders were shortlisted in the Gold Dagger category at the Crime Writers Association Awards. That's a hell of a resume. Elly, do you reckon you could give us an elevator pitch for your next novel in the Brighton series, The Great Deceiver?
Of course I could. And what a great resume. I was enthralled. It was great. Thank you so much. Yes, so the book that comes out in October is The Great Deceiver. That there's the proof of it here on the lovely
Lovely.
cover. And it starts when a magician's assistant is found dead in Brighton, and the ensuing investigation takes Edgar and Max, and also Emma and Sam, into the seedy world of 1950s magicians and 1960s television.
Television. Yeah, it's not going to catch on.
Nah, no. Well, I think they certainly thought it wouldn't for magic, and you think how how incredible magicians are on television. But one of the
Yeah.
characters in this book has kind of reinvented himself as a TV personality called Pal, and he has a really sort of awful show which I had great fun making up called Hug or Hit, where they play a record and the person is either hugged or hit with a
Oh my goodness. That's,
hammer.
that's, that's, that's two really big options.
Well, I think
Oh,
both, given the person administering the hugs, both are pretty horrible options.
oh gosh. Okay. All right. So it's on the list to be read.
Great.
coming out next month. So we'll do the questions. And the first one off the bat is, how much research do you do before writing?
Well, quite a lot. I mean, the Ruth books are about archaeology because she's a forensic archaeologist. So archaeology has to come into them. And I think
Yeah.
you mentioned that my husband Andy is an archaeologist, but don't run away with the idea that he's any help at all because, in fact, he doesn't read the books, but he has introduced me to a couple of women archaeologists who've been
Yeah.
hugely helpful. So I can send Lindsay Harvey is my bones expert, so I can send her a message saying, Lindsay, I really want to have cannibalism in the next book, which does occur in one of the books. Can you
Yeah.
tell me something about it? And she's one of the people who says, oh, great, I'm going to go and look up cannibalized bones. So there's always something going on with those books. And of course, that the Brighton Mysteries are set in the 50s and 60s. So there's
Mm-hmm.
lots of research to be done there. But now I tend to do the research at the same time as writing, partly because for the last
Yeah.
few years, I've written 2 books a year. So I'm kind of
Wow.
always writing. But now I sort of, in a way, I write to the point where I need to know something, and then I find it out. So in The Last Remains, which was the last Ruth book,
Mm-hmm.
Ruth 15, there were some Neolithic flint mines. So when I got to that point in the book, I asked if I could go down the mine. So that was really incredible, like really incredible
Yeah.
experience. So I sort of wrote to that point, went down the mines, then wrote about it.
Oh my goodness. Right. Well, next question. It's like I'd like to go on with questions for that, but I have this to do.
Yes.
Do you start with the plot or the character or something else?
Great question. Well, for me, it nearly always starts with the character. And the Ruth book started, as you said, with that walk across the marshland, and Andy mentioning about how marshland was this kind of sacred place for prehistoric people because it was neither land nor sea, but something in
Yeah.
between. They thought it was a sort of bridge to the afterlife. And then I sort of saw Ruth. I really did see her kind of walking towards me out of the mist. So I suppose place and character came together in that one. But
Hmm.
when a plot's concerned, I have changed my method a little bit. So when I first started to write, I would write like a little chapter plan just in longhand for the book, but I would start at the beginning and go to the end, so I would know
Yeah.
who did it. But with the Stranger Diaries, which was my first kind of standalone, I didn't
Hmm.
write anything down, and that really helped me with the plotting because I think with the chapter plan, there's a danger of it becoming a
Yeah.
bit linear, isn't it? Something happens and something else happens. And
Yeah.
with this, I was able to sort of go off and into little sort of cul-de-sacs and travel a little mysterious little path and come back. So now I don't write anything down. I have some of it in my head and I just start. And I read a wonderful quote about that, and I think it was Dr. O said it. He said writing a book like that is like traveling in the dark with your headlights on. You can only see a bit of the road in front, but you can make the whole journey like that.
Oh,
So
that's
that's me
brilliant.
now. Isn't that good? Yes.
It's
And it's always good
fantastic.
when somebody great has said something because you think, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm not just making it up. No,
And
that's a method.
well, the next question happens to be, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Oh, well, I used to
So
be a
now
plotter and now I guess I'm a pantser.
there's a driver in the dark.
With a drive in the dark. Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh. Okay, next question. Do you enjoy writing for adults or kids more?
Oh, again, another great question. So I've written a series for children called A Girl Called Justice, set in the 1930s about a girl at boarding school. Got to say, I do really love writing those books because Justice is based on my mum, who was at boarding school in the 30s. So they kind of cheer me up, and sometimes I write a little bit of justice just to cheer me up if I'm feeling a bit
Yeah.
down. So I do really enjoy writing those books. But funnily enough, there's not really much of a difference. I think the Justice books are just for children because she's young, she's
Yeah.
11 in them. But I don't honestly think there's really a lot of difference in the writing. I don't write a lot of sort of gore and sex and violence, though those things do occur in my book. So I didn't have to sort of censor myself too much. And
Yeah.
I think children like it when there's an unusual word. So I don't really change my vocabulary very much. There's not a lot of difference in the process. But one thing I will say is that children are so good at spotting clues. I've just come back from an amazing festival in Butte Noir. Butte's a little island of Scotland. And they had this
Yeah.
crime writing festival. It was so much fun. But I did a children's event there. And, I read them a little bit of one of the books and I said, can anyone spot any clues? Oh my goodness, they'd spotted all of them. So you
Get
have to
out.
be really on top form when you're writing for children.
It's like they love and they devour every single word.
They do, and they don't come with any preconceptions. So I suppose, we might think, oh, okay, here we get the locked room trope or something like that, but they're not
Yeah.
seeing it like that. They're
No,
really coming to it fresh, which is great.
it's a great adventure. A very awesomely depicted, desolate boarding school, I just have to say.
Oh,
It's
good.
like,
I really had fun with that. Yeah, I like a marsh. It's on a lonely marsh, and also set in the 30s. You can really the snow falls. They're cut off. There's no phone lines. Oh, it was great fun.
and then the names for the food just crack me up too.
Oh, and that was real. My mum, as I said, was at boarding school, and they did have a pudding called Dead Baby. They called it Dead
No.
Baby. Yeah, it was a kind of like a milk pudding, and that's what they called it. And one week, my mum put a spoon in it to see whether it would come back the next week with the spoon in, and it did.
No, that's
Yes,
incredible.
isn't that awful?
We're kind of used to bastardizing names here. I mean, there's fat sandwiches, which was lattice slice, which is like a confection with biscuits and custardy cream, and
Ooh,
then you've got dead fly pie, which is your passion fruit on top of a flan on top of a custard,
love that.
um, and that sort of thing. But when I came across that, I just went, it's an immediate boarding school stodge visual right there.
Oh, that's great. Yes, I do enjoy writing both lovely food and horrible food. And it's quite a big part of boarding school life, I think.
It is. What is your top writing tip?
Gosh, well, I mean, this sounds really obvious, but I think it kind of is worth saying. Is just to start. Don't
Yeah,
wait to have that moment of inspiration or that killer plot. Sometimes inspiration comes at the end. I think it really is about starting. Trusting yourself, starting. There's again a really good quote. I think it was Picasso. The muse catches you working. So
yeah.
I would say just start. Don't worry too much about anything about the plot, where it's going to go. Just start. Oh, my cat's just come in. I don't know if you can see him in the
Yes,
background
again, actually, it's
there.
great.
um, yeah, so just start, and then try and write a bit every day until you've got a manuscript. And your 1,000 words a day, you'll have a manuscript in 80 days. It's not that simple, but it is almost that simple.
Well, it's small steps, big
Yeah,
goals.
exactly. And actually,
Yeah.
I know people who do a little chart with 1,000, and they tick it off every day. And when you see it visually like that, it's not that many. It's not that many to tick off before you
Which
get
is
a.
kind of like a kid's star chart.
Yeah,
You're
yes,
doing
it is.
doing your
And we all love those, don't we? But I might start giving myself stars.
Who is your favorite crime character? It doesn't have to be yours. It could be any crime character at all.
Wow. I really like, and I think it really does count as a crime novel, The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I'm a massive Wilkie
Hmm.
Collins fan,
Yeah.
probably shown in all those descriptions of lonely houses in the middle of nowhere and all that. But Marion Halcombe in The Woman in White is just an amazing character, and particularly for her time, she's this very strong woman. She's described as not being conventionally attractive. Um, she's very, very clever. She drives the plot. I mean, there's an amazing bit where she's climbing over the rooftops at night and just to change out of her voluminous skirt, because she said, in that I take up the space of 3 people. So she's in dark clothes climbing over
Yeah.
the rooftops. I mean, she's an amazing character. It's like Mission Impossible. So I would say Marion Halcombe in The Woman in White.
Fantastic. Ooh. What is the hardest part of being a writer?
Gosh. Well, I think in some ways it's just finding the time to do it, but
Yeah.
for me the hardest part of the plot, this is going to sound strange, is the maths. I find the maths of writing a crime novel really difficult. So and my aunt was a maths teacher, and she always said, it's not, you must never say you can't do maths. So I was really careful not to say that to my kids, and as a result they haven't got a hang up about maths, but I do. So
Yeah.
what I mean is, you've got a character and they're born at a certain time, they're married at a certain time, they die at a certain time, then you have
Yeah.
to take away their children's ages from their ages, and I'm always at some point in the plot I end up with somebody who's -4 when their child was born, or something like that. And you think, could that have happened then? And then dates, and I've just got myself out of a big tangle because I'd confused 2005 with 2015, which is a very easy thing for me to do in a
Hmm.
plot. So it is that element of plotting where
Yeah.
all the maths has to make sense.
That's fantastic. Do you have like a character Bible or anything like that for referencing or?
I do, in the beginning of each, I've got a little sort of hand. I just got a little notebook, and in the
Yeah.
front of it, I just sort of write down all the dates, when people were born, and when all the children were born and things like
Yeah.
that. So I try to keep track of that, and in each new notebook, I write it all in again. So yes, I do try to keep track of that, especially with the Ruth books, because there are 15 of them, and
Yeah.
the readers, which is lovely, know them quite well, so they'll catch me out if I get anything wrong. So yes, and there's always something when you read back a book, you think, oh gosh, is I'd forgotten that. Like I read back The Crossing Places, the first Ruth book, quite
Yeah.
recently, and I realized that Nelson used to smoke. I mean, who remembers that? Well, not me, obviously.
No.
So
Well,
well,
you see, I
love
read
them.
I read the Dr. Galloway novels out of order because
Ah,
I had to order them in at my local bookstore. And of course, they didn't all come in at once. And I loved them so much, I wasn't going to wait in order to read them in order. I just read them as they came in. And
oh,
I'm going to go back and read them in order because I'm thinking, did that happen, or was that with that one, or
oh.
was that
I love that though. It reminds me of getting books out of a library. And when I was young, I was obsessed with a series called Jalna about a family but I could never get them in order. And it was sort of quite fun to always think, oh, how come they've had a child? And anyhow, watch out for Nelson smoking in the first book.
Yes. Next question is, what is your writing routine? Do you
Well,
have one?
I sort of do have one. So I'm here. I'm talking to you from my writing chair, which is in the garden. It's just me and the cat Pip there on the chair. Um, we've just been chatting about swimming. I live in Brighton, which is near the sea, so I try and have a swim every morning
Wow.
near the sea.
In
Also,
winter as well?
in winter as well, yeah.
Hmm.
So there's also a really beautiful open air swimming pool near me called Saltine Lido, and I've got an early morning pass for that, which means I have to swim by 9, which is really good. I mean,
Oh,
it's cheaper to have the early morning pass as well, I've got it, but it
hmm.
does mean it sort of galvanizes you to have that swim.
Yeah,
So yes, so I try to do that most mornings. Then I come into the shed. Usually Pip, the cat, is kind of waiting outside a bit, sort of accusingly. I've got a little coffee machine here, so then I have a coffee and
yeah,
I start writing. So I tend to write in the morning. I try to do my 1,000 words in the morning, and then in the afternoon maybe do something else, or some admin or something like that, and maybe
hmm,
then go back to the MS. But it's really try to start in the morning and get that 1,000 words done. I'm not very good at writing when I'm on the road, and like a lot of writers, I do quite a lot of events and things like that. So it's
yeah.
really here in the shed in the morning that I get my writing done.
Fantastic. All right, next question. How important is place?
Oh, great question. Well, for me, really important. I mean, I think the Ruth books particularly always start with the place. The first one started with the marshland. Second one was some Roman remains, and the third one was remains from the Second World War. So the
Yeah.
great thing about Norfolk is it's full of archaeology. It's full of remains, so you can sort of go down, you sort of roam across the centuries or even the millennia, really. So it really is the place. I'll just go one. I remember one night I was driving across Norfolk and I came across a deserted air base, and I learned about the American air bases that had been there in the war, and they were now called the Ghost Fields. And that was like, I thought, oh wow, that's a great title, and this is where I want to set the book. It just seems so sort of spooky and desolate, and so it place is really important for me. I've also don't think I've ever written about a place I haven't been to, even
All
briefly.
right.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so of course, Ruth's next door neighbour is from Australia. So should I ever write about his homeland, I would have to come and visit.
Oh, that would be terrible. We'd
Well,
no.
it would be so awful, but I
I
would make
mean,
myself do it. It's
I don't think of anyone who'd put their hand up to say host.
oh well, it honestly is a dream of mine to go to Australia, and my husband's family actually emigrated to Australia in 1904, I think, and his
Yeah.
granddad fought for the Australian Army in the First World War. So the Blue Mountains, that's where they were from.
Oh my goodness.
What's the place? Kempsey in the
Yeah,
Blue
okay,
Mountains.
well, Katoomba in the Blue
Yes,
Mountains,
yes,
or
yes.
Kempsey on the North Coast?
I don't know. We need to
There's
do more research.
they're two very distinctive but very amazing places.
Wow. Well, I would love to make that happen one day.
Oh, you should. We've got lots of crime festivals. You should come down.
I really honestly is, and I'm a hugely Anne Moriarty fan. If I could meet her, my day would be complete. Yeah,
Is it?
life.
Well, we'll see if we could talk to her people.
Well, that's wonderful. That would be wonderful.
And the final question. There, the time's going so fast.
It really has.
How would you get away with murder?
Oh, well, that's a very good sisters in crime question. Do you know, I think the real answer is I wouldn't get away with it because I am very bad at I'm quite bad at keeping secrets, I'm afraid to say. And if I'd done something really clever, I wouldn't be able to resist saying, "Do you never guess what I've just done?" So clever. Let me just tell you, a police officer once told me that the thing to do was push someone downstairs. I mean, I would never do this. So I think I'm afraid to say. Again, also not terribly tidy, not very good at covering my tracks. So I think I would be caught. I wouldn't get away with murder. And then I would sing to the treetops.
Elly, thank you so very, very much.
Thank
It's been an
you.
absolute pleasure chatting to you. We know you have a really keen audience here in Australia, and we can't wait for the next book. So Great Deceiver is out next month. And The Last Word is out here in January. Murder Monday interviews are available on Sisters in Crime's YouTube channel at 6 p.m. once a month on a Monday. Again, Elly, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. Hope to meet you in real life one day.
And